Hello, and welcome to Microworld number 17. And wow, we're having such a time with our signal. It's a very busy day on Margate Beach, and bearing in mind we had our signals working beautifully in the week, I think we came to the conclusion that Saturday is actually probably a difficult time for us. So we'll persevere, and hopefully the signal will stay with us, but it might be a little bit jittery, the quality could be a bit poor. So we're on episode 17, and this is called Kinectic, Squid and Noodles. The reason being is that we are bringing some of our old favourites back into the space. One is the cockatoo squid, which you can hear making noises behind me every so often. It's gone quiet now.
I just turned them off, it was playing already.
No, you can hear it playing. And we've also got some of our Connect artworks in the space as well. And it's going to be a bit rough and ready because we're going to be starting and stopping and setting up stuff. But yeah, so welcome to Microworld at Home, our experiments in creating a digital ecosystem.
Do you want the collaborators?
Well, yeah, so today we've got sound definitely from Julia Schauerman and perhaps from Ed Kelly and Simon Limbrick. Everyone was meant to be streaming their sound live into the space, but again the signal's presenting a few problems, so possibly with Julia's we'll be playing a just recorded, fresh off the press sound from her today, and we'll let you know what's happening with Ed and Simon's work during the show. So Tim, is there anything else you want to add?
Even monkeys may fall from trees. Whoa. That high-pitched noise is the cockatoo, which is responding to the noise that we make, and trying to mimic us, but sometimes it just gives up and makes a strange peep. So even monkeys may fall from trees. I can't speak because the delay on the audio is because it's been running so long, it's like a second delay. Is the Korean version of Things Will Fall Over, Nicola.
Oh, okay.
It was supposed to be a Korean week this week, sort of a Korean inflected week, but we couldn't find anything much in
well, we found plenty of noodles.
Korean computer science.
If I take this I wonder if I've got enough light on it. We've got some noodles here, I'll just illuminate them. So we went to Broadstairs for the first time in how many months? 4 months maybe?
4 months.
So while some people are thinking about travelling abroad, we were thinking long and hard about travelling 3 miles to Broadstairs. And there just happens to be a fantastic Asian shop there where we stocked up on our favourite international food, which is Korean. So there's a noodle packet to inspire. And yeah, we're sounding a little bit jaded, but we will persevere. Tim, what's new in the house?
Well, we should introduce the cockatoo squid a bit, but we'll introduce the cockatoo squid a bit better. So that's on wall 2. So there it is. If I press a few buttons, the cockatoo squid will come towards us while making its call. And the cockatoo squid has an eye which looks for colours in the room, and it changes the chromatophore dots on its skin. If I press T, maybe we'll get to see a bit more of the skin. Our cockatoo squid was an early piece which we did in a show with Sean Clark called Symbiotic, or was it Symbiosis? One of the two. Where we created works that interacted with each other's work. So Sean had a huge whale piece down one end of the gallery, and we had this at the other end, and they were kind of calling and responding to each other and changing the colour of each other. And we haven't shown it much since because it requires to be in a space with other pieces in a kind of an empty-ish gallery. As soon as you put it in a loud space, it goes off endlessly. But we thought we're starting to think about bringing back some of the older creatures to create a more varied interactive space, so including sound pieces. And the camera's flicking a bit there. I can see Nicola, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, so can you make that squid a bit bigger?
Squid, yeah, I think you're supposed to sing to it actually. If you sing to it, Nicola, try singing to it. I'll turn the booster up. So now, well, it's quite hard to see, but in the top right of the screen there's a little spectrogram which records the sound in the room, and then a second or so later it responds. So it can actually mimic quite closely, and the more sound it hears, the bigger it gets, the closer it comes. It's inquisitive. I'm sorry, it's flicking. I don't know, it's looking. It's looking at complete white. Are you just giving it white?
Yeah, well, I just thought I'd illuminate it.
Yeah, it can look at anything. So depending on what colour it is, it changes the colour of the picture. So that's the cockatoo. So we're just going to leave that running. But last week we also had a bit of a technical struggle. We had to kind of break down and restart the entire space. And
have we fixed it?
Not well, to an extent. I'll just turn cockatoo down. It's got massively big now. But by the end of the show, we created this really interesting cyclical feedback. Certainly the whole room was just going through waves of colour variation without us pressing very much. We got it into a sort of a state. So it was a stable state, but it was also a massively changing state all the time, and it was really fantastic. So we're going to try and... One thing about... you work with any kind of feedback system, and we've got a complicated feedback system here because we've got lots of cameras looking at the things on the walls, and that's generating the things on the wall as well. So it's looking at itself in some ways. One thing I've noticed about the cockatoo is I can't turn it off. I've turned the speakers down to minimum, but it just doesn't seem to care. Well, I don't know why, but so we'll just leave that. Yeah, so we're going to try and... One thing about feedback systems they're notoriously unreproducible. So you create this brilliant feedback system, you go, oh, that's amazing. Then you try and do it again, can't do it again. Because they are so sensitive to little bits of light condition and so forth. But we thought we're going to try and recreate some of what we did, that state that we got into last week. So we remember parts of what we were doing in the room. And to see if we can get it. It's a challenge. We don't know. So we're going to try and do that. I'll put some...
Yeah, I think it'd be good to have some music on.
Put some audio on.
And that reminds me, I'm just going to check to see if Julia's sound is coming through. So she's going to email her sound to us, and then we'll load it into it. I've seen Ed sent you an email.
Okay.
So we'll check that out as well. And yeah, so perhaps... Oh, and I tell you what, I'll introduce someone else to you. So we've got a third person in the space.
Well, he's not going to do anything yet, is it?
Yeah, but I think let's just say hello to, this is Bodger. And Bodger is our Kinect tester. So when we're running our Kinect, instead of us having to stand and put our arms up and down, we've got a little Corex Bodger here. Okay, so I'm going to move Bodger out of the way for a minute.
We'll be using Bodger later on, where we'll set up a Kinect piece called Multiple that we've been showing for years, and talk a bit more about the Kinect, because it's a great way to get interaction without touch screens, which might not be... Oh, there's a phone call.
Oh, okay. So I'm just going to take a call.
It's not a phone-in show, is it?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to put some audio on. Well, we've got something. It's absolutely nothing like last week, unsurprisingly, because we've got a bunch of different media and I forgot about that.
There is changing from green to red.
Nicola thinks something's happening. I'm not so sure.
Well, it's going from green to red, and I'm not touching anything. So I think
I'm
that's
not touching
to do with
anything.
the wave.
What's going from green to red?
On my left, on the left behind you.
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
That's going. So it's changing through colours.
Yeah, all right. There's a big flick on the middle.
Yeah, I think just forgive that one. Okay, so for those who work with webcams, you possibly know that when you use USB extension cables, it can interfere with the signal. And what's happened is I've lost control of the actual settings for the camera,
Nicola.
so I can't change the game to make it real time. And
Can we make everything more contrasted? Not on there, in the room. So I'm not sure how we. Is there a way of doing that?
And what do you mean?
In program. So if you drop saturation levels, things like that.
So less colourful or less bright?
More contrasted.
Okay. So take the brightness
See,
down.
Darkness is a bit heavy, isn't it?
No, but
It's
that's
all or
kind of
nothing.
interesting. Look on my one behind
The
you.
black's not very black. I guess that's on the cameras, isn't it?
But in terms of what they're seeing in the space.
Okay, well it's a balmy show this week.
I just what I do is on this one, if I just drop the red a bit.
Oh, Ed's just sent me his link, so let me see if that would work.
So in the middle of this space, I've got a couple of waves. So this is a new program. I started working with Wave program last week, and I've set it so that I can introduce new waves into it as well. So I'm going to bring in a third wave. That's coming up from the bottom. And I think what I'll do is I'm going to change the colour of them to being more green.
Well, believe it or not, Nicola, I think I've connected to Ed.
Oh. So you think
Because
we might have some live music?
Unlike Julia, he's given his session a name, and that has helped me connect. I don't think he's broadcasting anything at the minute, and I better mute it just in case it suddenly blasts in, but I'll keep my eye on that.
And while you're doing that, I think I'm actually going to go, if you don't mind, I'm going to actually set this to darker on the actual camera, okay? So I just need to get my glasses on. I can see the signal is struggling.
Yeah, but that's your incoming laptop.
That's
I would
true.
almost turn that one off altogether, because you're going to knock out my signal from...
Okay,
You need to
close that down. I've got it running on here. So I'm just going to go on to, so that's your one.
You need to
I've
quit.
turned it off.
It doesn't, it keeps going, it's a
Oh, I
laptop.
can see that's going into red now.
Yeah.
What's that about?
Can you turn yours off altogether?
Yeah.
And yeah.
So why is that? Oh, it's gone back to green. Okay, so let's just...
In terms of what's happening in the room, on the middle wall, did you look up how this wormy wave is done, Nicola? It's sine and cos, it says.
Yeah.
It's a random...
Yeah. It's basically, so you... gosh, isn't it funny how...
It does look like, actually, now I'm looking at it, just like a fixed wave, because at every point...
Yeah, it's got a random setting for how the distance
just to start off
between
with,
the waves.
look here,
Yeah.
this one is just doing that shape every time, so it's just a fixed wave that's going left to right, and then there's two mirroring it behind. So we could make that more varied using some kind of noise effect. But, and then the other cameras in the space are looking at that worm shape, and they are feeding it onto their walls, but on top of that, they're using an inverse. If I take the inverse off, it's hard to see on this one. I'll do it on Nicola's one. The inverse is just a mapping. So there you can see on wall number 1, the left wall, that it's mirroring what it's seeing through the webcam. And then you press the inverse function on it, and then it sucks everything into this central point. So any pixel there's an imaginary circle somewhere here, probably about here, is it? Imaginary circle, anything that's outside of the circle gets put inside the circle, anything inside the circle gets put outside the circle. So it inverts the two things on that point, creating this kind of cool kind of black hole-y type.
Yeah, so I made them a little bit darker. So do you want to have a go?
Yeah, that one's a bit boring, isn't it? Let's just get
So I'm going to change the background.
Let's make the dots free. Get the trail off. Kill off. Too much green, I'd say.
Right, what about that? That's pretty fiery, isn't it? So these are, in the background, we've got some buildings. This is Creative Commons films of different cities around the world. Got a little bit from Hong Kong and possibly Saudi Arabia, I can't remember because I got these some time back.
Look at the number
it's
of
lovely fiery.
cockatoos really getting inspired now. You can see the number of those bars. They're the colours that it's seeing in its webcam. So that's the colours
that
that's...
it is.
I'll bring it forwards. I mean, it's so faint because that other image is so bright.
I can drop it down, but for the moment we're trying to get onto the cascade, aren't we? We're trying to do a cascade.
Yeah. I mean, there are endlessly complicated cascades going on. What was interesting about last week's one was that it actually kind of got into a
pattern,
almost an RGB cycle, kind of quite slow change. The reason we're really interested in the piece being able to go through a complicated visual change on its own is because here, to get all these effects, we're pressing loads of different buttons, so we're not now, but sometimes we do.
Yeah.
But where these pieces are ultimately, will end, hopefully some of them, or varieties of them, variations of them, will end up in gallery spaces with some kind of interface, so people can touch a few buttons, but we'd have to massively simplify it from what we're doing. We're having to remember things like press V for video, and I and D and R and S and T, and all these letters do different things, so you can't have that as an interface. Apart from, you could have an interface next to where you have a keyboard and you can just press anything whatsoever, and then that just blaps something on the screen, which I'm quite keen on.
Okay.
But then some of these, quite large parts of the interface that we're doing, have got sliders in, so we can change things as a gradient across, I don't know, 0 to 1, whatever it is. So Nicola's changing the colour of her worms by dragging sliders for the RGB, I suppose.
Yeah. I'm just going to make these.
So yeah, the reason we want the pieces to be visually rich on their own is because not people aren't pressing things all the time. So we want a space to look spectacular and exciting, even when nobody's doing anything. Maybe not quite as busy as this, because as soon as people start doing something, we want them to create some amazing combination that they found themselves, and if you give them enough different buttons or sliders to press. We've been doing this show for about 20 weeks, isn't it? How many weeks? 17.
17, but actually, yeah, 3. Yeah, that.
And each week we're still finding out new things we haven't seen before, and being surprised by it. So.
That is correct. I see that our camera 2 is just definitely going to add into the mix, because it's...
So Ed has said he's going to go in about 5-10 minutes.
And you've got a signal. That's brilliant.
Currently I have, but that probably will fall over in a minute. Another 1,000 people on the beach.
And I'll keep an eye out for Julia's... So
Nicola, this week I did do a few new bits.
Oh yeah.
One of which is in... I'm going to take the inverse off. That's to the right of the inverse, Nicola.
All 3, yep.
Nicola's a new idea for a piece, which is half-tone, using a half-tone effect. So the sort of beginnings of the idea are that this will be a slow interaction. So
yeah, let me explain that, because so basically when people go to interactive shows, you've got kids will just jump straight in, you know, no problem. But there are a lot of people that feel a little bit reluctant about getting involved, and they may just want to sit down and watch, and hopefully if I just put this onto wall 1 and 3, you know, you might just be sitting down watching something generative before your eyes. And what I was thinking was it would be lovely to have a much more subtle engagement where people who are sitting on chairs next to the wall, like I am now, they would be tracked in some way. What would it be? Kinect probably, yeah? We would actually find out where the silhouette is.
I'm not sure, because it needs to get the colour information, doesn't it?
No, not necessarily. I'm thinking about it not being based on
this is lovely
colour.
With the RGB dots, but then you've got other little dots just not helping it. Yeah.
Anyway, so basically people sit down on a chair and they're, let's say it's with Kinect, their silhouette is tracked, and it could be considered a fungus, so a half-tone fungus or maybe a half-tone lichen forms where they are. And then when they leave, they actually leave their mark. So it's, maybe think of it like a fungus or a lichen attached to the wall that has been encouraged to grow in the area that they were sitting. And you know, some of that in some ways was inspired by the Southern Ridge trilogy and Annihilation, the film that was made from the book. It had this incredible human lichen sequence in it, which I just thought was wonderful. So thinking about slow creatures, something more, to use an expression, sessile, so unmoving, interactive creature that perhaps would stay there for about 10 minutes, maybe more, depending. And so there's always a trace of where people have been in the space.
I'm just trying to get it darker so
Yeah.
it stands, it pops out a bit more. Oh gosh, I'm moving around the room.
Uh-oh. I've marked the floor where camera 2 is. You might have helped it though, actually. No, you haven't
I fixed
helped
it. So
yeah. So I'll go back to wall 3. So what I'll do is if I just turn my cameras down, so that's wall 1, so it's dark. And then you can see that.
I mean, it's not coming across super brilliantly on the screen.
No, well I can
it's not bad.
do you want me to fiddle with contrast level on that?
It's just a lot of light coming from your city image. If you could turn that film off,
sure, of course.
that would help because I can see it's coming in from the left.
Yeah, of course. I'll just turn that movie off.
That's it. Oh, let's see, that looks kind of cool now. Right, so there's not many sliders in this. I only just put it in
So that's what
this
it's
morning
mapping.
almost, or yesterday evening. And I've run out of space, so I have to put the slider in the background one, so it's a bit crudely done at the minute. But you can change it. All you can do is on this one is you can change the size of the dots.
Nice.
So this half tone is used in printing in magazines. Well, I don't know if it is anymore. It used to be. But also it's used. Well, you have a similar effect on your TV screen. So if you get a magnifying glass and look closely at your screens, you'll see an array of RGB. Emitters or whatever. They're not pixels, they're diodes I suppose, whatever they are. And the patterns can be arranged in different ways. So this particular arrangement is a kind of a diamond one, so there's more, the greens are everywhere. Well, there are more greens than red and blue.
And I'm interested in CMYK as well, and I mean, so it's an aesthetic. Halftone. I mean, if you go online and type in halftone, you'll find there's lots of artists who are interested in working in it. Lots of software that people can use for manipulating photographs will actually have a filter to do halftone. And perhaps white dots in it could be quite nice.
Well, I like the extra dots that are appearing in. Can you put camera 1? Where does that go?
This is camera 1.
Which wall does that go? This wall?
That's for that.
Put it up. It's on you, it's dots on you.
Okay, oh sorry, yeah, put that back. Yeah. So how's it working? Should I illuminate myself? Does it need to see me?
Don't worry, it's my eyes. Eyes are always better than webcams, so they can see much more stuff. And maybe you've probably got a dark setting on this, and also
maybe I can reset that. So if
you can only reset the video, you can't reset the whole lot. But.
Yeah, but if I go, so I'm on video, and I just do shift, and I can make that a little bit brighter.
See, one thing with two-tone is it's based on, for matte printing, CMYK, it's additive. So, and we don't want too much we don't want a white background because it just destroys the effect of the video. So I'm not sure how you do that one. You could do it as an isolated small piece, I suppose, but on a screen, but I wouldn't want to project it because it just throws too much light around the space.
Yeah, well, so basically it wouldn't be moving much, it would be much more static, it would grow, and then we could just have it, the actual cells shrinking, just like it's run out of food, basically.
You can do the inverse effect, and some of the other effects that we already have will carry on working even though you're in halftone rather than video. The way the halftone works is you just take an RGB value to a series of pixels, and depending on the RGB, which usually go from 0 to 255, so that if the more red there is, the bigger the circle that you draw. Less red or no red, a tiny, a zero-sized circle.
I just picked that.
And then the three colours together, here you can clearly see the RGB, but if we had this at a finer resolution, which I will do at some point,
yeah, so you
start to see the actual colours of the...
See?
Yeah. You start to see the actual the colours, so that's like on your tailor, reproduce any colour you want. So.
Beautiful. Right, so how are we doing with Ed? Because we should actually try and do some filming, illustrate some...
What he's saying is they're just doing last minute patching, so
okay.
You know how complicated his setup is. So,
right, okay, well let's start manipulating some stuff. I'll put it back on wall 4.
That's kind of cool, though. It looks scientific, that does.
Yeah. So every time we do code, we're, instead of actually opening up the code itself and typing and changing things, we've got sliders. So we put, if I just go on to wall 1, wonder if we'll see it here. Yeah, you'll see I've got a selection of sliders, so I can increase the contrast, brightness. So it's again, it's thinking of ways in which other people could actually, I suppose it's a sort of interface to live coding, would you say?
In a sense, yeah. I mean, we were never quite sure about this, but then we, well, that's good, there, Nicola, look at you're in it.
Yeah.
We saw, I mean, lots of people for ages we were always a bit wary of having a kind of a touchscreen interface where there were complicated sliders, because then we saw some people doing one, and we thought, oh yeah, actually people really love doing this, and we love doing it as well, so
yeah.
why not have it? But before that we were a bit more purist about it. We wanted to use the body. The trouble is with the body is the computer finds it very difficult to know what's where. Everyone's a different shape and size. Everyone's wearing different types of clothes. When you turn around, your arms disappear, stuff like this. And the computers are just too stupid to figure all this stuff out, basically.
However, you know, by having sliders, you could say it's a tightly coupled interaction, so people can immediately see the impact they're having. So rather than some interaction, so we're not particularly worried necessarily. Kinect offers the possibility of a very tightly coupled interaction, but sometimes more ambient interaction can be lovely. But then if you also have the possibility of changing things on the fly with a slider, then, you know, you can just do, well, I'll do it again. I'm going to change my settings. I'm going to make it a little bit more, ooh.
Right, leave that, don't touch anything. As soon as we get kind of some kind of weird feedbacky thing going on, we'll have to start and try and analyse it and try and work out what it's doing. This is quite good. This looks different from we've ever had before, Nicola.
Ah,
you need to
no, I've got a white interior mouth.
Oh dear.
No, I mean yellow.
Oh dear, you need to brush your teeth a bit more.
Full of bacteria.
So the wall 3 is a bit boring, isn't it? So we're trying to improve that.
Little things.
Crazy woman.
Thing is, if we're enjoying doing it, I'm sure someone else will.
Yeah, and also the other thing is that every kid now has a laptop and a tablet in their hand from age about 3, so they're completely comfortable. Everybody's completely comfortable below the age of about 40 or whatever it is, or something.
Yeah.
With tablet interfaces. So, yeah, however, in the age of COVID, some people are asking for less touchscreen interactivity.
Yeah.
So we are going to start working out how to do more things with the Kinect, with the body.
Yeah.
But it is difficult.
I've been looking online, I was looking for photographs of people together. It's amazing how many photographs now are people with 2 meters apart. You know, nearly all photographs for advertising have to be landscape to give enough distance for people to stand sort of next to each other, but not. It's a sad time. Wow, bubbles. Okay, so how's Ed doing?
I can't see anything yet, so we'll just have to. Shall I put some sound on? Do you want to play around, or should we? There was something else that I did this week. I can't remember what it was. Oh yes, I know what it was. Yeah.
What was it?
Well, it was a twister. It was just a rotation on the video signal, which is what you need to explore a different type of feedback, which I'd like to have a little explore of today. But I'm kind of just enjoying that visual actually. It's got quite a nice biological, scientific sort of quality.
So why don't we try and get it on this wall? Where's your camera? Which one's that? That's that one. So let's add some of that into it.
Yeah.
Lifeline.
I started doing an online course this week, or last couple of weeks ago, on biological visualization, which I thought, oh, this will be good. I'll learn how to create some cool new effects. But really, it was more about how to given an image of the plant, and then you can use the computer to analyze the data. So, that, for example, count the number of leaves or the colouring of the mould patch and things like that. So it was a bit. Well, so far I've only got halfway through it. But I really love scientific visualizations. You know, think about the way that the cells get visualized, and they have to really abstract things out and colorize certain things to make it much clearer to understand what's going on.
Look what I've done with the cockatoo. So I just turned
it's got a red eye.
Well, I've put the camera for the eye and the chromatophores onto. So it's illuminated. Can you make it bigger again? Oh, we've got a whistle to it. La la la.
Oh, I've turned the spec off, the booster off on them. Which one is it? This mouse.
I'm going to put it on.
I think there's a battery.
Sure.
There's a load more sliders up there, Nicola. They're yours.
Yeah.
Seg space, seg size.
Yeah, yeah.
Where they all come from? They're worms.
It's for the worms, yeah. So I didn't have enough room down here.
Oh, right, yeah.
And then I thought, well, I need to access them.
Can you make them really fat? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's gorgeous. Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll just go into here and take the scale down to there, and then.
Looks big squatchy toothpaste. That's good.
And let's take the.
I'm feeling more relaxed now. We've been struggling for 2 hours before this show started with an awful video, internet feed and so forth. And I feel more relaxed now.
Oh look, cockatoo's massive, so let's get it on 4. Fisheye. If I make mine a bit
The
dark.
cockatoo squid is a real creature in the sea. It's a squid. It looks like a cockatoo.
It does. Because as I say, it swims upside down. So its tentacles
It
and
does not swim
arms.
upside down, Nicola.
Its tentacles and arms are above its.
Let's go to the tail. The tail has a nice sine wave on it.
Okay, let me take.
In fact, can you get the worms off, will you? So loads and loads of the things that we do are inspired by, we're using maths and scientific type imagery to create new imagined creatures. And in this case, the tail of this cockatoo squid is, you can sort of make out a pretty straightforward sine wave there.
And what are they made of though?
Oh, is it fingers?
No,
Could be something
it is.
more rude.
No, this was a finger one. Think about playing the piano. Take it onto a different part of the body. Okay, and they're the chromatophores, so they're picking up the colour that's in the space. This was designed originally so that their colours, the clothing colours, would actually be repeated in the cockatoo's skin. So, you know, lots of scientists are exploring whether or not the cockatoo squid, or any cephalopodia that has this type of skin, is actually communicating with it. Clearly they use it for camouflage, they use it to attract, possibly repel, but is there the potential to communicate?
Are they a living painting?
Well, so we were thinking about this particular creature communicating with the public, saying, we know you're there, here's your clothing colour, and then singing to it. See this little mouth?
It looks great that size, doesn't it?
That's little mouth. That's actually made from buttocks, I think. Right, so let's try and get some light in its eye. So I'm just picking that up by holding the camera. And
What do you want?
any sound?
Sound?
You got Ed in the space yet?
No. I mean, the point is that I'm looking at it, but my internet might have fallen over. This other internet might have fallen over, so it's not really.
We'll check your
Plus, I've got the
email.
browser running.
Right, what have I done with glasses? Right, so I'm just going to try and get some stable.
Last minute patching. I'm looking at what I think is his string, but I can't tell. So the cockatoo now is like oh, you can see Bodger there on the left. Flashing lights.
Illuminate it.
So one thing I did find with the cockatoo was that it's quite hard to, it never does what you want it to do. So now it kind of, you make a load of noise and it doesn't respond, or give it a lot of colour and it doesn't pick it up, or it was slightly badly behaved. So what are you trying to do, Nicola?
I was just trying to get something a bit interesting going on. And then if I...
It does look kind of interesting. It looks a bit more like an art installation. Oh, telephone, what's that mean? Means the link's dead probably. I've got solid green signal still.
No problem. That's fine. If you just send me a text when it's there, we're still hoping we can connect with Ed. So that's fine. Yeah, but text me when it's there and then I can go online and get hold of it, okay? Okay, cheers, bye.
When I did the cockatoo has certain calls which I can just make it. I can just press a shush. I can just pick out, and it makes these calls when it's lonely. But otherwise, it tries to respond to whatever it's hearing. So it will try and convert our voices into some kind of audio if they're loud enough. And I've turned up the booster, which is off again. I'll just put it back up. But yeah, there are fixed calls, and this was the most complicated one. And I wanted to put in the one that was George, what's that? George Michael song? No, Rio by Duran Duran.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I know, but I couldn't figure out the numbers. I mean, they even couldn't figure out the number. It was not kind of whole notes or whatever. So, but yeah.
Lovely. Right, so that is the cockatoo. But we've got some other friends here, haven't we? And by the way, so because the episode is called Cockatoo, Connect Cockatoo and Noodles, now just bring my noodles back up.
I gotta bring my noodles back up. I'm going to draw some noodles. I've got an idea to draw some noodles.
I'm going to make the line thick. And then
That one got coral. Right, B. Video. So it's just that normal video. Okay. That's that right for background.
And I can get my noodles moving fast.
I don't need to dance.
See that? Fast.
Ah, that's good, yeah. That's nice, a nice blurry effect. Because the webcams we're using probably only doing about 15 frames a second, 20 frames a second. Oh, it is nice, it's underwater, Nicola.
Isn't that? Although we're meant to be doing some construction today. Because I think you've got.
Yeah, but I just enjoy playing with this stuff. I mean, this is kind of. It's something as simple as a little wobbling wave. Multiplied around is beguiling. So, what was I trying to do? I was going to draw some noodles with the dots.
So then I'm going to get a hold of
this will work.
Julia's.
So I don't want them free. I want them going left to right. I want them big. I want a trail. Black trail, that's not good. Let's get a white trail. Well, noodle coloured trail.
No, I think I'm going to get some coral in mine.
Okay, dots, a little bit smaller I'd say. So get them like that, and then we're just going to let them draw a straight line, and then whack the wiggle up, and they're not wiggling. Whack the friction up. Oh well, all I managed to do is draw some horizontal lines, which isn't very interesting.
Well, I've got some. I'm going to slow those down a bit. I've got coral in mine, but mine's going up. And then I'm going to try and get some video in this one. So if I start down and
oh, no, not wiggling.
so I'm
That looks a bit like Noodles, Nicola.
so look. So this is
Very
nice.
very nice.
Right, so
Bit
Julia's
yellow,
sound
isn't it?
has
It's a
come.
bit yellow. Oh, she got a sound, has she?
Yeah, but I've got it to download, so I'll be able to give it to you. If you can give me a... Oh, there's a snip.
Yeah,
So I've
pass
just got to
it
go
over here,
online.
I'll play it here and see how it goes.
I've just got to go online to get it, alright? So I
Good
will...
luck.
So let's see what I'm on. Which signal should I not be using? I shouldn't be using Vodafone or...
The 2G Moo you want to keep off.
Yeah, so can I try Vodafone?
Actually, that's our Korean names. 2G, Nicholas 2G Moo and I'm 5G Moo. And these are the two internets from downstairs, which we've attached to put a booster down there. Sometimes we get a better signal from them than our own internet. Sometimes, usually it's the other way around, but today our own internet is not dealing with the
No, and I think we're
thousands of people on the beach, I would guess.
I think we're going to have to bite the bullet. I think we're going to have to reschedule to a different day. Quite honestly.
Yeah, we've been, as it's got busier on the beach, we're not super experts on this, as you can tell, but we think that our internet is one of those personal ones, portable ones, and we think lots of other people are using the same.
Well, we've got access to 4, and the point is on Wednesday.
Well, they're all the same effectively, though, aren't they?
Yeah, but on
Well, two are
Wednesday,
different.
we had a good signal.
We have really good signal sometimes, but then other times it just disappears. So we've never had a good signal since flat. We've been here 7 years.
Yes,
See, because we're on copper
the first
wires and they're not very good.
The first 10 microworlds were fine,
Yeah.
and then when we did the road to Conway Hall,
Yeah.
it was a really horrible day, and the signal was fine.
That was
And
important
every
because-
Saturday
Yeah.
that we've had incredibly hot weather, the signal has been dreadful. So I think you can see why we're making a correlation.
Yeah.
Right, I'm cool. So Tim, if you can take over doing stuff for a minute, because I'm trying to get online.
Okay, I'm going to explore Zoom a bit. There's a pixelation thing in Zoom which I've never really looked at very closely. Pixelated, which does what it's called. So if I change the scale and stick it on the pseudo scorpion, there's a pseudo scorpion on 4 on 3. So this is a little creature that doesn't move on its own. It only moves when there is something. It latches onto something. For example, it could latch onto a dot. So if I make the dots bomb around, I can't even see the dots because I'm on Zoom. Take Zoom off. Pixelated off. Zoom off. Wow. I don't want the trail on the dots. I do want them to donut. Donut meaning they go off one side and come back on the other side. I was thinking about donuting this morning actually, Nick. I've got an essay in me about the donut, because when you have things that are moving across the screen and they get to the edge of the screen, where do they go? Either they can be donutted, which means that they wrap all the way around to the opposite side of the screen, and the same for the top and bottom, which is coding wise, it's very easy to do. Just use a mod. It doesn't take up hardly any. I can see the pseudoscope is moving a bit now. It's down here. I'm just waving my mouse around. It's bottom left. It's tiny though. Either you can go off the edge and come back on the other side, or you can be blocked when you get to the edge. So, for example, if these were little creatures in a box, they can't get out the box. They have to just follow around the edges. That's much more complicated to code because you have to make them turn when they hit the edge, and then you get problems that they stick to the edges and so forth. But it can be interesting effects. And then the third way is you could just have an infinite space, basically. I mean, all these things have got the cells that we do. I've got cells in here, I think I have.
Yes, you have. Yeah.
Is it that first one? Let's see there. If I create one of these, some of these big dots, they have an XY coordinate and they can go off to infinity X and Y, or in any direction. The choice of that, so you bet, those are the three I could think of, three ways that I've used to determine what happens when something goes off the edge of something. And they have a kind of, they have an aesthetic connotation. The donutting is what usually they're doing computer science, and it's a way of finding out. Where are you going, Nicola? I'm talking to you.
Yeah, no, sorry.
Lost my audience. So.
Sorry. I'm going to have to put it onto your computer via a cable. Sorry, tell me more about donutting.
So don't listening anyway, are you?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it kind of smooths it. It means you're in a kind of an infinite, on planet Earth. You can't walk off planet Earth. If you keep walking in a straight line, you'll just come back around the other side of it.
Yeah.
So that fits that aesthetic. But if you don't allow anything to leave the edges, you box it in, then that becomes much more realistic to how things are on this planet, how creatures live. You can't just wander off. If I go out that direction, I'm blocked by, there's a door in the way and so forth. We're stuck in our room in a minute. Also, if you're stuck in a room and you add more and more things in, you're going to get more and more crowded and run out of space. So that has kind of an aesthetic about lack of space and constriction and so forth. And then the other one, the infinity one, is more of a mathematical sort of solution for a kind of hall of mirrors type thing, where everything gets reflected back into the same space. So each of the three different ways have different kind of aesthetic connotations or behavioural connotations, because a lot of our things are creatures. So why should they? It makes sense if they go off the top, they come back on the bottom. It's
true.
However, for some things it works well. Like dots would be, you wouldn't be able to get all these streaming effects if you don't. So some of us, so we don't have an internally consistent world. Then I suppose to conclude is that some of our creatures.
However, we're both interested in time travel. Marginally interested, maybe in parallel universes. So maybe different shapes, different worlds. Different entry points.
Well, it could leave one computer and go on to another computer.
If you think of cockroaches.
I mean, we haven't done anything that goes around the walls, for example. We did do it, but it wasn't working brilliantly. It was a bit. Although we were using that MQTT system, so I think we will get that going in. The point is, in this room, everything's so close that so many things are on multiple walls anyway, so it doesn't really make much. It doesn't have much impact if something actually goes around the space, and we only have 3 of the walls out of the 4 in this room. So.
Yeah. Right, I've got Julia's sound, so I need to transfer it from a mobile phone to your computer.
So stick it onto that one. Well, after all the stress of this morning, it's quite a leisurely show today.
Yeah, David VA has. Oh no, God, your computer never likes this.
That's fine. It's not doing anything.
Okay. So what happens though?
You just pull it out and put it back in, and you restart it.
No, you do that then. It's stupid. I should have done it on my computer. I forget it always.
Thanks, Nick, for crashing my computer.
Well, it wouldn't be a program if it wasn't a crash. David has sent in a last-minute film, which I might be able to play on my computer and just play it via a video camera, webcam into the space. Why not, eh?
Sure. It's so hot today. It's just like we're going in slow motion, basically. So the other tiny little, well, I've been working on bits and pieces this week, one of which, I've been talking to an artist called Sam Meach, who's based in Manchester and has been making a lot of art and doing research on video feedback. And I was really inspired by one of his pieces, which was called, what was it called now, Nicola?
Feedback.
So the name escapes me. It looked like it was a living organism which you could kind of add to by shining lights on it.
But he won an A Life Award, didn't he?
He just won the artificial. Now what was it called? The Artificial Life 2020 conference. So artificial life is the closest science to what we do as artists. So it's a branch of. It's related to artificial intelligence, but it's not. Looks good, doesn't it? It's related to artificial intelligence, but it's more about simulating animal behaviour using algorithms, etc. and he must have put in a paper maybe, or a piece of art and a paper. He just won this award, which was pretty cool. So I wrote to him. I think his piece was called something like...
I'll check online, okay?
I've got it here. I'll just get this PhD up. I'm not going to read his... Video culture. So using a simple
construct
webcam and video mixers, we've created this really cool looking feedback, which was slightly different to other feedbacks I've seen before. And so I thought I'll have a go at trying to do that on using processing, the coding language we use, and created some things that have got quite similar.
Quite compelling.
Yeah. And then wrote to him and said, blah, blah, blah. So we just started to have a little conversation about where we can take this. So really, the only thing that was, well, I'm not saying this is going to work actually, but the only thing that was missing from what we had, we've got webcams looking at walls. I want to point something at that wall, Nicola. I want to point, so if you could point, each wall has its own webcam, and if you point the webcam at its own wall...
Do you want to point them all at their own wall, yeah?
Well, no, just one really, and then I'm just going to draw a block.
Oh, look, that's nice.
That is nice.
Well,
oh, that's the webcams.
They look like something out of the
War of the Worlds.
War of the Worlds, yeah.
So yeah, the idea is that if we, let's get rid of these cells, and let's clear the screen now. If I just draw a blob, I'll just draw a red blob. That's a bit small. Alright, let's go to wall 3. So there's a red blob. Okay, and you can see up there, there's a, because this camera is looking at itself, there's the secondary red blob, and then a third red blob when it sees, so you create feedback. But to create a more interesting feedback, you need to, let's put it down here. You need to rotate the angle of the webcam, and rather than doing that, you can do that physically by rotating the webcam, or you could just add it into the program, which is what I did. So all it's doing is it's got a video signal, which we can change the size of.
That's great.
Well, it hasn't done anything yet, actually.
Yeah, the colours look
You're
great.
easily pleased. So I'm moving the. Let's shrink this webcam down. Oh, I didn't put much of a decrease on the size of this webcam. I have to really press it. So I'm shrinking the webcam image, and I can move it up and down around the screen. And as I do that, it's you can see it's sending the patterns up and around. But if you want to get more interesting feedback, what you need to do is rotate the lens. So I've just added in that effect, which is just on the plus and minus nickel. You can do this as well on wall 1 if you want.
Yeah.
So use the notes to draw something.
Yeah.
And then I've got erosion on here. I'm going to take erosion off. Actually, I'll leave erosion on. We've got a kind of speckling effect that'll add to it.
Okay.
And then, yeah, plus and minus
Oh, I don't like that colour.
rotates, and it's quite a strong one. Rotates the webcam.
So I've just created some notes with green and red, yeah? And then what do I do?
Well, you can rotate the. You need to point the camera at itself. So your wall 1, that's this one, isn't it? Just needs to look at that.
Yeah.
And you'll create some
Oh,
feedback.
I see. Lovely.
And then you need to press plus and minus. and then you can probably kill off the background, and it should, if possible, that you can get it into a cycle. Now we're a bit cramped here.
It's not doing very much, is it?
Well, you're in my webcams, for example.
Oh,
it's
sorry.
not. Don't worry about it. It's fine. It's very. I didn't really expect anything particularly much. I mean, you're doing better than I am. You've got more clearance there.
Okay.
So.
Right. So.
After a while, yeah. Now, if you use the video sliders and change the color of the RGB and do things like change red screen, you should be able to create quite complicated cycles, I think.
Right. So Julia, you've got Julia's sound, so we can do that. She tells me, well, it's called Construct. It's a 21-minute piece, but she says feel free to play it as you want. Well, that's lovely, Tim. You're in the wall too.
Okay, hold on. Can I do Ed's first because he's playing live?
Yep, sure. Okay, so Julia's yours will be coming on in a minute. Okay.
I mean, if I can get it. He says.
We'll see.
He says they're playing now, Nicola.
Okay.
Connect. The thing is, what was the name of his link has now disappeared. Sorry. Why is it getting harder and harder each week? I better turn that off in case. Oh, it is off. Right. I'll just add in occasional bits. I'm not seeing anything on it. On its. I can't connect to it, it's the main problem. Shall I try Vodafone? Yes. So I'm going to give this.
That's nice.
A little bit longer.
Okay, so then I'll get that.
That's a good idea, yeah. Put something that moves slightly into it.
Yeah.
And this laptop is just having a horrible day. It's too hot. I mean, I can't even disconnect, let alone connect. Yeah, I'd really rather just carry on doing stuff than sort of sitting here trying to work out audio feeds, Nicola.
Yeah. So put Julia's on.
Yeah.
If you can't,
Where did you put it, up a desktop?
I gave it to you on a stick.
On a stick, okay. Just got to copy it across. Yeah, I think I'm just. I think I guess the live audio is important for them playing it, isn't it? But it's causing today. It's causing a lot of technical problems. Okay, I've got Julia's piece. Should I start it? Yeah.
Yeah. And then do you want to? Are you in communication with Ed?
that's the end of Julia's piece. Construct. Which bits of those heard sounded great.
So I can see our signal is suffering, so you're probably buffering. Lots of people on the beach today using the internet. How frustrating. But it's past and we're still going. I discovered the trick of turning auto stop off on YouTube. God knows why I put it on in the first place.
So even though it's stuttering, it picks itself back up. That's the idea.
Yeah.
So a large part of what you've been looking at is the piece of multiple, which we've been running for years and is one of our most popular pieces. We call it the piece that keeps on giving.
Yeah. What did we design it for, Tim?
You're going to be a bacteria. We designed it for a project with Animate. What are they called?
Animate Projects.
Animate Projects, which was to illustrate. It was an art science project, and then which paired up artists or art groups with scientists, and then
we worked with Dr. Neil Dufton, who's a specialist in, I believe it's called basic science, so the analysis of cells. And in particular, we worked with him on inflammation. So it's a Wellcome Trust funded.
So the idea of the program was, it was to illustrate inflammation, so that and a large part of inflammation is the spread of bacteria. I can't remember the science of it now. It was quite a long while ago, wasn't it?
So basically, what we decided was we were going to choose something simple that people could relate to. So we chose an insect bite. And then there was Frankensteller tularensis is the bacteria that you get from the horsefly. And it was about the journey of that bacteria through the skin into the body and the body's defence. So it's all sorts of things.
Cascades of biological activity.
That's what we were interested in, wasn't it? Cascades. So we're looking at things like how the cell defends itself, or the body defends itself, with mast cells and leukocytes, and inflammation being a part where the plasma fills up into the blister, bringing all the...
So we wrote a program to illustrate just a small part of this animation we had in mind of a bacteria spreading, so one thing reproducing and spreading across the screen. And then once we had it, and the basic setting was the one, was this one.
So on camera one?
Camera one.
Three.
So the live one, I think if I press G, does it go green? The live one is the bottom left green one. And then the one to the right of it is a few milliseconds delayed, and the one to the right is delayed again. So you create these cascades. About this program running, and we ran it at a couple of exhibitions, we realised that we could expand it, and it actually took over the entire project. So we did the whole project with this program in the end. And or a film. But then after that we started running it as an interactive piece in all of our shows, and just adding in more and more effects.
And it's super intuitive. I think that's why it goes down so well. So a toddler can walk in and make sense of it very quickly, and it enables multi-user engagement as well. So if Tim joined me in the space, he can come in and create a shape immediately. So you can create quite complex. In fact, let's try and do it. You have one, Noodle. Let's remember the lovely, going up and down.
Okay, like just slow. Okay, so this looks like it mirrors the worm effects which we had at the beginning of the piece.
Yeah.
So just gently do it on the green one, so we can start creating these quite interesting effects. These things, the things we're holding are noodles, so this is one of the reasons why we had noodles in the title this week. Plus we've been eating noodles all week. So,
you can see we're going into amber and red again.
Yeah, our signal is sputtering around.
So I think people will possibly be gratified to hear, if they've involved themselves in any of our art making, that we are thinking about actually moving it to a weekday, maybe from 4 to 6, something like that. So it still won't be. I think it's nice to do it late afternoons rather than evenings.
Or we may just pre-record it.
No. Well, anyway, we're going to experiment and find out, but we'll let you know, because On Wednesday we had a lovely signal and it is struggling a bit now. Right, so let me see.
The other thing I wanted to knock up here, show Nicola, is what I'm calling little people. So this is not fully finished yet as a program.
What more do you need?
I'm going to restart that one, which is on screen.
Okay, so we'll stay on.
I'm on 3.
We'll stay on 3, yeah.
And then it's fine.
Well, I don't know, maybe it's interesting to see Tim loading up a program.
Okay, is it?
Could be.
Almost everything we do is written in processing. A free and open source programming language, which is Java wrapped. The code is procedural and pretty similar to if you've coded in BASIC or C or Java or Python. They're all pretty similar. Processing is really good for getting up visual stuff onto the screen really quickly. So there is Nicola.
Wow.
There's little Nicola.
Let me take my camera off that. That's neat.
This will be, so if I just dropped a container, see what it does. Watch it, Nicola. So the idea of this is little people go across the screen, it's not finished yet, obviously, and then off you go.
Where's she going? She's
going
off
drop
the screen.
it. Oh dear, will you come back on the other side? Will you drop it? Let's have a look.
Disappeared.
Well, I think this, I know this
one.
one
Oh my gosh,
is.
that's a long walk.
There's a nice green.
Let's go.
No, leave it.
Yeah, no, I'm
It's good, it's like it's anticipation, Nicola.
Okay, let's go back onto it.
Will it appear? Oh, it's dropped the box. Okay, so it loops round, and then the eventual idea is that here she comes. There's little Nicola.
Oh.
The eventual idea is that I'll give it another box to pick up. The red one this time. There'll be lots of these boxes, and it'll go. These little figures will go across the screen, tidying up the screen basically, and building little piles of boxes. So what happens? It's putting it down. Watch it now, Nicola. Goes down, then it takes a step forward, and it tries to pick it up again, but it doesn't reach it.
It's stupid.
Well, it's not quite got the right program.
I look like a zombie. I don't know if you can see that.
No, you can do. Watch this up there. See, it goes a green one. Watch the red one. So parts of it are working quite nicely. Parts of it are just not working yet.
I tell you what.
And it should. Does it work?
I've got this.
It goes straight. It puts it next to the blue. Quite nice.
I wonder if I can get this camera on it.
So there will be a little Tim at some point joining little Nicola, building endless pyramid piles of boxes.
So let's see.
And it'll probably be put into the C People program. So what are you trying to do? Getting a close up on it?
I am, but it's really difficult.
I don't have any way of zooming in on it.
No, but I was just.
Basically, I've got a big shot of your back.
So, wait a sec. So this is 1. So let's go onto there. And let's set that to standard.
So this sort of gives you an idea of how we go about programming these pieces. We create little sketches, we look at it, show each other what we've got, have a chat about it, come up with some new ideas, add more in, and then eventually they'll make the cut and then they'll appear in a kind of finished
So can you put it on 1 and 2?
program. Yep.
It's pretty chunky, but...
It's not any bigger than the other one, Nicola.
Is it not?
It's about 20% bigger. It's going in the other direction, which is quite cool.
Down.
So now it's gone all the way around and it's picking up the boxes again. At the moment it's just putting them down randomly. It doesn't have any kind of logic, but what it would be doing is piling them higher and higher and then actually climbing up the pile, I suppose.
So I can make mine.
Yeah, so I'm not sure you're really adding anything particularly, Nicola, by a wobbly
well, no, I mean,
webcam
it's a shame because
Well, hold on.
You can zoom in.
I can zoom in.
You can zoom in.
Which one are you?
I'm on the number 1.
You sure this is
Come round
worth
my way. Careful of the
I can't get over there.
Come round.
Sure, on this way.
This is art in action.
Okay. So I can zoom in on this one using the zoom. Fixed. No, mouse. Where are you? There you are.
Oh, it's hard.
Well, it's hard because it's moving. The zoomers really just zooms on a fixed space, and then, I mean, you've got a ghost. It's not. It doesn't. It's not. That's that interesting. If I could get the pseudoscorpion to attach to your head or something, then that would be more interesting, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Then I can follow the.
Okay. Well, we're going to do this there. Right. So, but with the camera on, let's see if I can get hold of. I've got a video.
I wouldn't mind sitting on that side, just having a go at this video feedback thing again.
Yeah.
While we've got this set up like this.
Okay.
Nicola, is that right? I don't know. We're not worrying about audio. Do you want to play some? No, we just talk away through it. We're talking this way. Can you move that? Can I get that sit in here?
Change the camera view so it's more interesting.
Well, I need some feedback on it.
Can you?
I don't need that.
No, just put it down somewhere.
Okay. Right, where is it? So, I want this one. That's it. So I remember the first thing you do with video feedback is you get it to the same size. So you get it so it's almost exactly matching on top of it. So I'm shrinking the scale of the video image. The distance of the webcam to the wall is about 2 meters, but it's angled. So you get it to sit on top of it, and you get it as close to the actual size of the initial source as you can.
Yeah.
And then you just press. You just tilt the camera angle slightly. And it is actually doing something, I'm not sure. And then tilt it a bit more, tilt it more. And then maybe chuck in a bit of blue. That's not blue, that's magenta, blue. So you get in this program, in the one that I had on my laptop, you could, in this program, when you draw something on the screen, it's there forever. So you don't want to do that. You want, well, I'm getting interesting feedback just off a pseudoscorpion. And just little stars, it's like the EU flag, Nicola.
Uh-huh.
Almost. I get a blue background. Not sure what I'm trying to do here. It's like the EU flag almost, if I'd say that was. It's disappeared. I think this looks. I like this. I love this. Get these two balls on. One, two. Look at that. That it looks like a piece of futurism or something. Tiny little figures, geometric shapes. Got a trail there. And a little feedback on the figure. What's Nicola up to?
This is. Sorry, Daddy.
Was it David's film?
Yeah, I'm playing it from a mobile phone.
Oh dear. Low tech. That's alright, that's good.
It's called Crown. Thanks. So we can see the little figure walking through it. Let's get it on.
Put it on the other wall as well now.
Yeah. So we haven't got a video. You haven't got a video in multiple, have you?
No, because it's Kinect, so you can't have video and Kinect at the same time. Or I haven't worked out how to do it.
So people, we experimented with another Saturday show, and clearly the signal is a problem.
And it's getting a bit frustrating now. This is about the third or fourth week where we've been fighting against the internet.
And
whereas before that it was fine for the first 2
yeah,
months.
because I think it puts an unnecessary pressure on the whole thing. So I am Well, Tim and I will have a chat about it, but I think the next thing to do is to actually try it on a different day, live, see how we get on with that.
In the evening.
Because we definitely want to continue doing it, because regardless of how many people actually watch it, it's a really good discipline. It forces us to get things ready and try things out for 2 hours. You know, it's very easy to just say, do it tomorrow. So it's just like, this is a way of ensuring that we
You sound very wise.
try and surprise each other, actually.
Yeah, there's a bit of that about it as well. So I put the old halftone in last night, just after you talked about it.
Yeah. Can you change that to CMYK on the fly, or is it fixed to RGB?
I can't code anything on the fly here. All I've got is a few sliders
That's
to play with, but it's got interesting effects every time.
Look, I can see myself in it upside down. So where is the camera for that one?
Well, I'm
turn
twisting it.
Maybe
Put it upside down, Nicola.
Anyway, for anyone who's actually watching, thank you very much for joining us. Sorry, Ed and
Yeah,
Simon.
we're going to have another whole 20-30 minute sound performance from where they're based, Norwich, was it? Norwich
Right,
and
it's
Margate.
based around the corner.
But we couldn't find the connection to them, so hopefully they recorded it and we can drop that in
Yeah,
as a
and I
recording.
think if it does work on a weekday, then it'll be easier. We'll fix times that suit. I mean, quite honestly, we could actually change what times in the days we do it anyway. But the really nice thing, Tim, about working with sound, live or pre-recorded, is that we got into the moment last week with the feedback because of the sound that Julia provided.
Well, it's one less thing that we have to worry about.
That's right, and I just think,
It means when we're playing sound, because we decided we don't want to play sound at the same time as we're talking, because it's a bit of a mess usually, so when we're playing some sound, preferably about 10 minutes or more, it means we can just sit and explore the parameters of our programs. But I mean, today we've sort of just looked at quite a few different programs. I mean, and multiple is works brilliantly as always, adding in something different. So,
and I think we had the virus or Jobster as it's now called in 1 week, which is Connect. But as you can see, this is a much tighter connection.
and can trigger different effects. I mean, we're in discussions with a couple of venues about doing large-scale shows next year, and we're having to
make them COVID secure.
Reduce the amount of touchscreens that we use. I suppose about 50% of our shows will use touchscreens to create, because we want the audience to create quite complicated creatures sometimes, and then add those into the mix. So we're having to figure out ways to use more non-touchscreen interactions, but still provide a way for people to not just dance around, move around, which is fine for some interactions, but then you want other more considered interactions where people can actually create something, send it into a space, how it responds to the space, how it changes the space, and then adapt what they've made, send it back in, right, send another one in, send two in, working against each other, working together, create complicated ecosystems of creatures. So we have to figure out how to do that just using your body to trigger things, I suppose. I don't know if we want to use sound to trigger things. It's quite complicated in the public space.
We've got aeroplankton and...
I don't mean musical sounds. I mean, you could say to instructions, go bigger, go left.
Oh, I see, no. I don't, well...
We'll
I think
have a go at it, but I think
imagine
it's going to
that
mess.
leading to all sorts of confusion. You'd have to have a really robust system, and it wouldn't work with some people. They had the whole issue of what frequency and...
Yes, and you'll just get lots of garbled messages, I imagine. But
So for those of you who are wondering why bodger, when obviously a human can stand in, bodger was mainly used to actually work out distances. So if there's only one of us in a space and we needed to work out what distance a human needed to be picked up, because we usually set it so there's a minimum distance and a maximum distance, then we could just stand bodger in the middle,
It's so we don't have to get up. You know,
Yeah.
you try something out, recode it, get back up. You've got to dance. You've got to move around, test it. Then you've got to go back and
you
code
see
it.
the bodger is vaguely.
It gets very, very
shape.
tiring. So it's kind of kid-sized, I suppose. Bodger.
Yeah, with its arms up, showing it's ready for
It does the job.
action.
The Kinect will pick anything up, anything solid.
So if any interactive artists are interested in a version of bodger, let us know.
Bodger. What do you mean?
We can manufacture bodger.
Okay. Oh, I see. Oh, good little side project.
It's like,
Right. So what have we got? What are we bringing today? So we had a bit of a problem with the. We haven't done lots of things. We've barely even looked at today.
yeah. Well, I think one of the. Yeah, you had roots in there, didn't you?
Well,
Look,
Roots doesn't
I'm
work.
still marching around the corner.
Roots doesn't want to work at all.
Oh, right.
Anyway, I'm confusing myself. Oh, there it goes.
yeah.
Boing.
Put it on 2, 1. So it's nearly time for the end of the session. So first of all, thank you, Julia, for sending your music in. It was going to be a live feed, but as heard, we had a signal problem, so she kindly sent it to us when we played it, Construct. And Ed and Simon, well, we'll look forward to doing a live stream with you sometime soon. So we'll let you know when, what day and time we're planning to start doing our new show, because I think especially because the weather's really hot here, maybe it's going to continue for August. It's just too painful to struggle with that signal. So I think for the moment, I'm thinking Wednesday between 4 and 6 could be quite nice. What do you think, Tim?
Where'd you come up with that from?
It's midweek. I think 4 and 6 is good. You know, it doesn't, because people maybe want to do things in the evening. It's an informal sharing session, isn't it? So it's just a thought. Anyone who's watching,
It's really hard to track the internet. I mean, but the problem is we live in a block of flats and we share our internet with everyone in this block of flats.
Which is why maybe 4 to 6, or even, I don't really want to do 6 to 8, you see. I think 4 to 6 would be quite nice. It's towards the end of the day, people will be using the internet less, maybe, I don't know.
I quite like the idea of pre-recording it, but you're not, so you want to do the live.
I just think it puts us under
More pressure.
Yeah, and I think if you record it and stream it, the recorded version, then you're in danger of wanting to edit it. And actually it's the...
You will. Edit out all the notes.
Well...
Okay, have we got anything else? So Ian says we're going to try again next time.
Lovely.
And we're not using OBS. We built an audio recorder to PD patch, which is crashing Simon's computer for some reason. We're trying to record it. So there, he's having problems.
Okay, so it is a problem.
Don't feel quite so bad about it.
No, and what's happening out on the beach? Shall I import... Oh, maybe, can you take my camera out? I want to reach your camera out of the window for the end of it, just to show... That's mine, isn't it?
It's wrapped around that one.
What about that one? Can you that's camera 3. Oh, camera 3 is on that one, isn't it?
Oh dear.
Ah.
Grab that one. Camera 1. This looks quite long, Nicola.
It is.
Feed that one through.
Okay, so I'll take that off. Okay, so we'll give you a shot of Margate Beach.
Nicola's going for a big ending.
Yeah.
Shot people on the beach.
Okay, Tim is coming under the camera, under the table. Can you take it?
Where? Yeah.
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 Got it.
And I'll have to put it up on wall 2.
That will reach.
Yeah. So let's get on wall 2. And I've got to get the...
Do I just stand there holding this for the next 10 minutes?
Well, I've got to try and work. I've got to try. Let's go for the big one. So I'm resetting the camera. Okay, so stick it out.
Well, it's not quite the end. Okay, alright. I've got some tape somewhere, gaffer tape.
Okay. I mean, it may be that it's empty. It may be people have gone home for something to eat, but I've got a feeling it probably isn't.
Well, it's so sweaty, I can't tear this.
Oh, why am I not seeing anything on?
Right.
Is that definitely right?
W1 it is. And there are a lot of people.
Oh, it's not the right camera then. Oh, wait a sec. If it's one, it's that one, isn't it? Wrong camera.
You're on half-tone. What are you doing? Take off half-tone. Take off mirror. Take off IR.
Okay.
Shift V
Yeah.
sets the video to deep,
Yeah,
normal
sure.
colours.
Okay, so, and then let's take the roots off. So we're going to roots and press K.
K, yeah.
Okay, right, so there's the beach. So it's camera one. And let's try and get the settings right. Okay, so let's take the video down a bit.
We've got scaffolding outside our flat at the moment, so the top half of the image is scaffolding.
That's quite wide, isn't it? It must be really hot out there.
It's hazy.
Yeah.
But you should be zoom in, move in, change the brightness and contrast and that. You'll get some stuff.
Okay, and then Z, yeah?
No, well,
What else?
just use the cursors in the big, greater than and lesser than. That's it.
Take it up a bit. Okay, so this is happening live now on Margate Beach.
Well, it's good. It's just a lot of little red blobs.
This is a pretty low resolution camera and we're zooming in on it as well. It gives you, it looks better than it looks on the wall next to me. So a lot of
You've got the
Streamline?
shouting. You just press Shift V, would you? So that's the default setting. So yeah, it's just it's way overexposed, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's because half the image is dark, half the image is light.
Well, it's also because it's probably very hot out there. There's chances that it's going to get to 37, I think.
Yeah.
So that is Margate Beach now. Doesn't look as crowded as I expected it to.
A lot of traffic though. No, but the camera's just blurring out. Basically, it is much crowded than that.
Oh my god. Oh yeah, no, it's absolutely rammed out there.
It's just the sand is the brightness of the sand pixels are wiping away the darkness of the little human pixels.
Anyway, all of those people on the beach, I imagine, have got their mobile phones on and they're saying, "Hey, wish you were here." And that means it interferes with our signal.
Well, this is a theory of ours because we think the Vodafone broadcast is what do you call it? The aerial is on top of Whitcombe Point, which is that big tower block on the back left. Arlington House.
Whitcombe Point's in Peckham.
Previous one, tower block I used to live in. So yeah, we think with our internet is sharing. We're sharing it with half of Margate at the minute. That's why.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're nearly at the end of the session. For anyone who stayed with us, thanks for persevering.
It was a different show. It was a bit more.
It was a very different show. It was different to what we expected.
I do quite enjoy it. I really like their scientific visuals. So I mean, I like. It was more of us actually experimenting rather than just whacking everything in at once.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a bit of a mess probably. We'll watch it back later.
So do you want to put the theme music on?
I do, and then we're going to go and have a cold beer and some noodles.
Or your brother said, ice cold in Margate.
Yeah.
And on that lovely thought, we'll leave you with some music. See you next time.